And Mitch Daniels is just the latest high-profile politician to say thanks, but no thanks, to a run for the White House. Others include Mike Huckabee, Donald Trump, and Haley Barbour. So how will his decision affect the Republican field that's taking shape, and who can benefit from it? Shira Toeplitz joins us now. She's a staff writer with Roll Call. Shira, good morning. I mean, this is pretty astounding. There have been weeks of drum beats about Daniels for him. Suddenly, quietly on a Saturday night, he pulls the rug out. Why do you think he declined?
Well, you're absolutely right. It was very surprising. I know I woke up in the middle of the night and saw that email and was rather shocked. He'd been very seriously considering this for weeks. He'd come to Washington. He apparently had made some calls about it. But if you look at his statement, which is a rather personal statement, at least compared to other candidates when they say they're not running for president, his statement is rather clear that it was all about family considerations. And there's a statement, a letter he circulated to supporters. But if you also go to the Indianapolis Star, he laid it out even more, that it was about his family. You know, his family basically said no. They gave him, quote, a veto over it, and he said he couldn't overrule his family.
Well, you hear that a lot from politicians, but there's the overriding issue about his wife, and he had a divorce in 1994. She left the 4 daughters from 8 to 14, moved to California, married a high school sweetheart, I think, and then divorced him, came back to Indiana, and remarried Daniels. They don't talk about that too much. Do you think that could have been the tipping point?
Obviously, there was something there. There were some personal considerations that they did not want to talk about. They did not want to come to public light. The only thing Mitch Daniels has ever really said about it is, if you like our marriage, it has a happy ending, or something along those lines. You know, it's not something he likes to talk about, and it's certainly not something his wife, who is very much shied away from the political spotlight, ever wants to talk about.
All right. Well, then with him out, who benefits?
I think the immediate beneficiary is definitely Tim Pawlenty. He's announcing on Monday, so this is good timing for him. It sets him up well. And also, I think Daniels would be a chief competitor to him, probably would have outshined him a little bit in the race. They're both governors. Daniels is about to be a former governor in a couple years. Pawlenty just stepped down a few months ago. They both have similar profiles. And also, in the first-in-the-nation caucus state, Tim Pawlenty is running very, very hard there. And Mitch Daniels, should he have tried to run for the presidency, probably would have also made a big play for that state. So Tim Pawlenty immediately benefits quite a bit.
Yeah, Pawlenty, the former Minnesota governor, and you talk about Iowa. He's been there quite a lot. Do we see who in Iowa potentially is shaping up to be a front runner?
Tim Pawlenty is obviously making the greatest efforts there. Close second is probably former Senator Rick Santorum, who's also considering running. He's making big efforts there. But what's interesting is we're still not sure yet whether Mitt Romney is going to go back in and play big there. National polls show him in a pretty solid position, in part because he has very high name identification from his run 4 years ago. But it's unclear yet just how hard he's going to run in Iowa. He ran really, really hard in the 2008 campaign, and he came in a very disappointing second place to Mike Huckabee. So we'll see if he's really going to go for it again. Yeah,
Romney won the straw poll, but, you know, does that really count? Because you can kind of almost practically buy your way in on that.
Well, you know, it is an indicator often of someone's support, but let's remember Huckabee also did fairly well in that straw poll. He came kind of out of nowhere to do really well. So people were sort of surprised, but it was an early harbinger that he might win the caucuses in 2008. So,
all right, and finally,
yes, there are some mechanics. You can't buy the straw poll, but you can certainly make it to play to your advantage.
And finally, Herman Cain. I mean, he is causing a lot of noise and a lot of attention, and for some, a lot of excitement. Tell me about Mr. Cain.
You know, I actually just saw Mr. Cain right outside your studios downstairs. He's obviously very excited about a run. He is a different kind of candidate, though. He's different from a lot of other candidates in the field in that he's not an elected official. He doesn't have a track record, but he does have a track record as a businessman, and I'm sure, you know, if he becomes a serious contender, people are going to look into that a lot more seriously.
All right, we'll be talking more about Herman Cain in just a few minutes because he talked with Chris Wallace. That's why you bumped into him. Maybe share some coffee in the green room. Shira Toeplitz, thanks so much from Roll Call for the insight as we're calling the horses this morning. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.